Shalom. I want to start by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Rakakwadash. Yahweh is the true, holy, and powerful name of the Heavenly Father. Bahasham meaning in the name. Yahweh Shai is the true, holy, and powerful name of His only begotten Son, who is the Savior of the nation of Israel, starting off with the elect. Within the nation of Israel, and Israel consists of you so-called Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans, as well as you Israelite foreigners, scattered abroad that may look like the nations where you've been scattered to, but are Israelites, and I also want to give double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who rule well. Peace and salutations to the hopeful elect, pushing out this word in all sincerity and the truth. All right, this is brother Yakar from the GMS branch out in Des Moines, Iowa, coming back at you with another lesson inspired by the Holy Spirit, Harvard Kakwadash. And the brother Barakim and myself, we just did a lesson, pretty much speaking on losing interest in this place, and I had a whole lesson kind of planned out, and the spirit, did what it did and took it the angle that it took it. But there was a lot more other points that I wanted to go into. Wanted to touch up on this commentary in Hebrews, the 11th chapter. So, Lord's will, I can touch up on these things, but the centerpiece around this lesson is similar to that one, just as far as losing interest in this place, man. All right, that's very key. All right, to make sure that we're losing the interest in this society, especially seeing where we are in prophecy. Like there's nothing left to go to, anyways. But as new believers are still waking up, all right, and dealing with that pull of Egypt and things of that nature. Those are things that need to be killed off, and it's killed off through faith and fear in Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, through praying, fasting, all right, and so on and so forth. But without further ado, I'm gonna go into it, and Lord's will this lesson be edifying. All right, but this is the book of Galatians 6:14 in the NLT. It says, "As for me, may I never boast about anything except the cross of our Lord Yahweh Shai Mashiach. Because of that cross, my interest in this world has been crucified, and the world's interest in me has also died." Right, so our interest in this world has to be crucified, and there's things that we might have had value in before, all right, and might have cared about before, and those things need to be killed off, okay, because of our hope and expectation in the world to come. There's a book of Philippians chapter 3 and verse 7 in the NLT. "I once thought these things were valuable, but now I consider them worthless because of what Yahweh Shai Mashiach has done." So once again, things that at one point we might have valued, all right, might have cared about, right? Now, because of our faith and belief in Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai and the reward to come and what He's allowed us to see, all right, the reward, right? Those other things should become what? Worthless, all right, because of our expectation in the kingdom. Verse 8, "Yes, everything else is worthless when compared with the infinite value of knowing Yahweh Shai Mashiach, my Lord. For his sake, I've discarded everything else, counting it all as garbage so that I could gain Yahweh Shai Mashiach." And we really have to embody this, all right? Discarding everything else and counting it all garbage, man, because the things that the Lord has prepared for us, all right, man, this is it's beyond comprehension. All right, and we have to make sure that we're settled in that belief, okay, because there's people that are going to be pulled into taking the MOTB. Are people going to be pulled into making decisions that are displeasing to the Lord because they're still, all right, caught up in the here and the now, all right, you know, because they have a desire towards the things of this world or whatever the case it may be, or a certain lifestyle and everything like that, man. People are going to take the MOTB because they want to get back to something, or they're holding on to something, right? But those that have a hope in what's to come, in the world to come, they're not going to take that. So this is very important, all right, to make sure that we're ingrained and established upon our faith and belief in the world to come. All right, and this is the vibration that our forefathers and our foremothers that believed walked in, man. "Yes, everything else is worthless when compared with the infinite value of knowing Yahweh Shai Mashiach, my Lord. For his sake, I've discarded everything else, counting it all as garbage so that I could gain Yahweh Shai Mashiach." All right, so this is the book of First Peter, chapter 5 and verse 8. "Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about seeking whom he may devour." And one of the key things that our adversary, our uses, all right, to devour us is through what? Enticing us through pleasures, enticing us through the lust of the flesh, the cares of this life, or whatever the case may be. All right, in the parable of the sower, All right. It talked about how the thorns began to choke a certain individual, man. And it said what the cares of this life, the lust of other things, and the deceitfulness of riches, all right, began to choke that individual, and what he became unfruitful, right? So you can get choked out. All right, let me grab that. All right, through the care of this world, man. All right, this is the book of Mark chapter 4 and verse 19. I'll start at verse 18. And these are they which are sown among thorns, such as hear the word and the cares of this world. Right. So we have to kill off the cares and the desire towards the things of this world, and the deceitfulness of riches and the lust of other things entering in, choke the word, and it becometh unfruitful. Right. So it says the lust of other things. Right. And in the other one, all right, the Matthew, all right, it says what? Matthew 13 and 22. He also that receives seed among the thorns is he that heareth the word and the care of this world and the deceitfulness of riches. Right. All right. So there's people that are deceived by the riches, all right, of this world. Okay. By what Esau puts on the forefront in the media to chase this lifestyle, to chase this type of, car, to chase this type of this and chase this type of that, and so on and so forth, man. All right. The deceitfulness of riches, it could choke the word, all right, to where a person becomes unfruitful. And the Spirit had us bring out this as well in the book of Second Timothy chapter 4 and verse 10. It says, for Demas have forsaken me, having loved this present world. So we have to make sure that we're mindful of this, man. Okay? Because a love of this world can cause you to forsake Yahweh Shem Yahushai. All right? And that can creep in. All right? You know, still being attached to Egypt. So once again, these things should be being killed off, right? It says, for Demas hath forsaken me, having loved this present world, and is departed unto Thessalonica, Crescens to Galatia, Titus, and unto Dalmatia. So, right. So these are different things that could be lingering, in your mind, still trying to chase this or be attached to that or whatever the case it may be. Now, there's not anything wrong with having a desire towards certain things, man. All right, even King Solomon said, if your desire be in thrones and scepters, O ye kings of the people, he said, what? Honor wisdom that ye may reign forevermore. All right, because wisdom is really the mother of all these things in its pureness. All right, we have quoted the precept in the book of Wisdom of Solomon where it talks about striving for undefiled rewards. See, this wisdom is going to grant us everything, man. But we have to be patient and wait, okay, for the reward. All right, and put off the things of this world, man. Okay, not seeking for those things on this side, but seeking for it in the kingdom, seeking for it to get it in its pureness on the other side, delayed gratification. All right, we're gonna get those things. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be appreciated and wanting to be acknowledged and everything like that, but trying to seek that here on this side, like nah, man. Okay, you know we're gonna get all these different things. We're gonna get the acknowledgement for the work and the labor that you've been putting in through the Spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, and being valued, right? We're gonna be valued. Or we're gonna have the women. We're gonna have the all the nice things and so on and so forth, right? There's nothing wrong with having the desire towards those things, all right. But what does Jake do? In their effort, all right, to achieve those things on this side, what? They do all manners of wickedness, okay? They forsake the Lord, right? Because they're trying to chase those things. The Lord's like, look, like, I'll give you all of that and more, okay? I'm going to give you everything and more. But you need to honor this wisdom. You need to have a desire towards me. And I'm going to grant you all that anyways, man. This is Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 6, in verse 22, or verse 20. It says, therefore, the desire of wisdom bringeth to a kingdom. If your delight be then in thrones and scepters, O ye kings of the people, honor wisdom that ye may reign forevermore. Right, because as we read in the next chapter, King Solomon, he said that what? Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7, and verse, I'm going to start at verse 10. It says, I loved her above health and beauty, talking about wisdom, and chose to have her instead of light, for the light that cometh from her never goeth out. All good things together came to me with her, and innumerable riches in her hands. All right. And I rejoiced in them all because wisdom goeth before them. And I knew not that she was the mother of them. Right. So wisdom brings us to all these things, just like with King Solomon, man. he prayed for wisdom and the Lord gave him everything, man. All right. But it started first with what? Honoring wisdom, being obedient to wisdom, right? Salakia. All right. So we got to make sure our mind is focused on this, keeping our eyes single. Okay. The Lord is going to give us everything. We have to believe that. It says, commit thy way into the Lord, and he will give us the desires of our heart. Right. You know? So we got to make sure that what? We're losing interest in the things of this world and keeping our affection on things above. Okay. So that's it in that Wisdom of Solomon. We read that Galatians, we read that Philippians. All right, so going back to this in 1 Peter 5 and 8, be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about seeking whom he may devour. Right? And once again, the way that he devours certain individuals is by enticing them with the pleasures of this world or the pleasures of sin that are temporal or that are for a season. Okay? And I wanted to go into this word sober. So it says be sober, right? This word sober is nepho. It says what? To be sober, to be calm and collected in spirit, to be temperate, dispassionate, circumspect, right? It says dispassionate, right? So when we go into this word dispassionate in the Google, it says not influenced by strong emotion and so able to be rational and impartial. It says not influenced by strong emotion, right? So when it comes down to this world, all right, our emotions shouldn't be tied into the cares of this life. Can't be too caught up in the affairs of this world, right? Dispassionate, meaning what? Not passionate, okay? So we should lose passion of the things of this world, all right? You know, you got different people that are passionate about these different things of this world and so on and so forth, right? We're supposed to lose our passion when it comes down to chasing the things of this world. Our passion should be towards Yahweh Shem Yahweh, towards the kingdom. All right. And even further, dispassionate in the etymon online, free from passions, calm, disposed, not dictated by passion, meaning the emotions. All right, the opposite of passionate. So y'all pretty much had broke it down. This being not or opposite of passion. You know, so you got a lot of people that are still passionate about the things of this world and this society, but they're not passionate with what? The kingdom to come. All right, the things above. All right, their desire and their hope isn't towards Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, all right, in the world to come. So we have to make sure that we're being mindful of this, man. Okay? We're gonna get everything. All right. He that overcometh shall inherit all things. So we have to have that mindset of delayed gratification, man. This is the book of Hebrews 11 and 15. Well, I'm gonna start up in verse 13. It says, these all died in faith, not having received the promises, but having seen them afar off. So our forefathers, our foremothers, they died, all right, in those lifetimes, right? Not receiving the promises in that lifetime, all right, but they had a belief that they were going to receive it, right, in the world to come, but having seen them afar off and were persuaded of them. So we have to be persuaded of the reward to come and embrace them and confess that they were strangers and pilgrims on the earth, meaning they were just passing through, pilgrim mentality, right? For they that say such things declare plainly that they seek a country. And truly, if they had been mindful of that country from which they came out, they might have had opportunity to have returned. But now they desire a better country that is in heavenly, wherefore the Most High is not ashamed to be called their power, for he hath prepared for them a city, all right, which is the kingdom of heaven. Okay? So we have to, what? Have our mind on this world to come. We're just passing through. We're pilgrims. Okay? We're about to get everything. All right? This place is over with. It's through. All right? Finito. Right? So this Hebrews 11 and 15 now, I just typed in the commentary for it. I'll read some of this. Then we're going to read another Blue Letter commentary. All right? Or Bible Hub commentary. But it says Hebrews 11 and 15, AI overview. It says means that true faith involves a deliberate refusal to return to a former life because believers are focused on a heavenly, better country. The patriarchs like Abraham left their homeland not because they forgot it, but because they had been promised a future city designed by the Most High, and this vision gave them the strength to press forward rather than turn back. Right, and just to give an example, with our Lord Yahweh Shai. All right, it said for Hebrews 12 and 2, looking unto Yahweh Shai, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is set down at the right hand of the throne of Yahweh. Now, when we go into this word despising, the shame, or that phrase, endure the cross, despising, okay? The word despising, it says to contemn, despise, disdain, think little or nothing of. So the Lord thought little or nothing of what he had to suffer compared, all right, to the reward that he was going to receive. So this strengthened him to endure being marred more than any man, being spat on, being mocked, all right, being beaten, right? The reward to come strengthen him to be able to endure all of that, man. So we have to have our mind on the reward to come to help strengthen us as well, whatever it is that we have to suffer. Because once again, in the book of Romans, the 8th chapter, this is Romans chapter 8, I'll start at verse 16. It says, the Spirit beareth witness, or the Spirit itself beareth witness with our spirit that we are the children of the Most High. And if children, then heirs, heirs of the Most High, and joint heirs with Yahushua Mashiach. If so be that we suffer with him, that we may be also glorified together. For I reckon that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us, right? So we have to believe that whatever we're suffering can't even be compared, all right, to what the Lord is going to grant us, man. Okay? It cannot even be compared. It's not even going to be thought of, all the suffering, man. It's going to be like, whew, man. All right. But we have to believe that, man. All right. We have to believe that. So going back to, where was that? We read that Romans, Hebrews. Okay. So yeah. So going back to the AI overview commentary. All right. It says, reading this portion again, but because they have been promised a future city designed by the Most High, and the vision, all right, it says where no vision is, the people perisheth, right? So we have to have vision, foresight of a reward to come. Gave them the strength to press forward rather than turn back, going back to the world. All right, like Lot's wife. She looked back. She regarded Sodom and Gomorrah with care, with pleasure, because of the substance Lot had, and thinking about what might have been left behind. She looked back, and her ass died there, man. All right. She was left as a monument of an unbelieving soul. Okay. You know, so we got to make sure we're not regarding this place with care or care. All right. Making sure we're not trying to hold on or thinking we missing out on something, man. We ain't missing out on nothing. All right. It says focus on the future. The verse uses the example of the patriarchs to illustrate that if they had longed for their old country, they would have returned. Since they did not, it shows their hope was fixed on a future heavenly home, not a return to earthly origins. It says faith in action and demonstrates that faith is not just a feeling, but a decisive action that involves leaving behind the familiar and comfortable for a promise that is not yet seen. This forward facing perspective is crucial for spiritual growth. So, this is crucial to make sure that what? All right, we have faith in what's to come. Okay, our actions, the way that we move, the way that we operate, should show forth that we have faith in the world to come. Right? A pilgrim's mindset. For believers, this passage encourages a pilgrim's mindset, living on earth, but with one's ultimate citizenship and hope in heaven. This influences priorities and decisions, understanding earthly life as temporary. Okay? So our decision making should show this, man. All right? That we're looking at this. This is just temporary, man. I ain't investing in this. I'm just looking forward, passing on. Not worried about losing certain things or whatever the case may be, man. You know, because you're looking at the world to come. A warning against nostalgia. And this is a key point. This verse serves as a warning against nostalgia or longing for a past life. And you have people that experience that. We read that in Timothy. All right. How Demas, all right, he loved this present life. He had a nostalgia. He had a longing for what? The world. All right. He endured for a while, but he really still had a longing for the world, and it eventually led to him going back into the world. Okay. It says, particularly one contrary to God's will. Returning to that past will be a rejection of God's promise. Okay. Now, looking up this word nostalgia, a sentimental longing. All right. So this is emotions tied, like, man, I'm long for this. I desire that, right? Or wistful affection for the past, typically for a period or place with happy personal association. So you're thinking about your friends in the world and how life was, and man, I miss this and I miss that and all this garbage, man. Okay. You know, we read that in the book of Philippians. Paul said, man, I count all that other stuff I used to desire, man. I used to, enjoy, man. All of it's garbage, man. All right, it's BS. Okay? You ain't missing nothing, man. You got all this longer, man. I miss my back in my homies, man. We used to do this and that and the third, man. I used to love it, man. I used to do this and I used to do that. Like, nah, all that's rebuke, man. All that BS was garbage, man. You know? Whatever, okay? We shouldn't have nostalgia towards this world, a sentimental longing or wistful affection for the past, all right? How life was before. Like, man, your life was garbage. It was trash. It was BS. It was tainted, all right? You ain't missing out on nothing, man. Your life is better now. Catching hell, suffering for Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, all right? You're being refined. You're being better. You're being molded more in the image of Yahweh Shai, all right? And you got a kingdom that's awaiting if you hold on. All right. Yeah, we catch hell. We go through our sufferings, but like, come on now. All right, and look at where we at. We're on the good side of prophecy, man. These people are out here through crashing out. Man, your ass will be through without this truth, man. All right, all right. And if you don't believe that, man, you got a problem, man. All right. If you think your life was better before, you came into the faith, you got a problem. All right, that need to be checked. You know, all right. Understand what we got to understand what we're a part of, man. All right, yeah, we go through the sufferings and everything like that, but it says that the righteous shall suffer straight things and hope for why, meaning the kingdom. The wicked shall also suffer straight things and shall not see the why. So whether you righteous or whether you wicked, you're gonna suffer. All right, but at least if you're righteous, you're gonna get a reward. If you're wicked, you're gonna suffer and then go through more sufferings. All right, you know, and then not receive this glorious reward the Lord is talking about granting those that live godly, man. All right. So those different thoughts, man, they might try and creep in, but they got to be rebuked. You know, it got to be rebuked, man. Guard your heart. All right. That shit trying to pull you into nothingness. Okay. It's trying to draw you into nothing. All right. In the world is nothing. Okay. Nothing at all is there. All right. It's not cool. The people in the world, they're not having fun. All right. The pleasures of sin, all right, it's not cool, it's not fun, it's temporary, all right, and you'll be through, okay? So you got to rebuke all that, man, okay? And then you're gonna deal with the wrath, the wrath, and being beaten with many stripes. Hell nah, either Pookie and Ray Ray, all right, ain't gonna get the lashes that somebody that came into this faith, tasted of this glorious gift, all right, and took their hand off the plow, all right. They not even finna get whooped as bad as an individual like that. Like, nigga, you tasted of this glory. You tasted of this kingdom. You heard about these different things. All right. You knew what the Lord had prepared. Okay. You know what I'm saying? And then you went back. Oh, yeah, you worse. All right. Pookie and Ray Ray, they ain't need, they ain't know about the kingdom of heaven. All right. And what's to come. Inheriting all things. Right. But you knew. So it's like, bro, ain't no turning back to nothing. All right. Once again, to what? To the vomit? Like, hell nah, man. All right. But anyways. It says, going back to that commentary. Okay, now I want to read another commentary. All right, so this is Hebrews 11 and 15. This is the Barnes notes on the Bible. All right, it says, and truly, if they had been mindful of that country, if they had remembered it was sufficient interest and affection to have made them desires to return. And like it says in the book of Colossians, all right, Colossians chapter 3, in verse 1, if ye then be risen with Yahushua Mashiach, seek those things which are above, where Yahushua Mashiach sitteth on the right hand of the Most High. Set your affection on things above, not on things on earth. So we have to think towards the kingdom, man. For ye are dead, and your life is hid with Yahushua Mashiach and Yahweh. Your real life is on the other side, man. Okay? You're not living. Okay? All right? And when I say that, I mean, as far as this world, man. All right? Because we got the breath of life. All right. So we've been quickened, but we really get to enjoy life and your children, wives, and food, land, substance, all that and everything in the world to come. Okay? You're not missing out on anything. Okay? This world has nothing to offer. The crumbs from the rich man's table, you don't, look at what Jake is doing for crumbs at the rich man's table, man. Look at what Jake is doing to get real, this fiat currency and, you know, look at what Jake is suffering through, you know, all the weirdo stuff they got to do, man. It's like, bro, you're not, and then it gets taken from them. They get humiliated. Like, hell nah, bro. Let's just get the glory from the Lord, man. All right, let's just wait for to get our reward from Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. It's way better. All right, you know. So we gotta have that mentality. He speaks about that Moses had, man, in the book of Hebrews, the 11th chapter as well. Hebrews chapter 11 in verse Hebrews 11 in verse 25, 24. By faith, Moses, when he was come to years, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter. So he had status, he had money, all right, all of that, man. But he what? Choosing rather to suffer affliction with the people of the Most High than to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season, right? So I was like, yeah, nah, forget all that. I'd rather go through the suffering, catch the hell or whatever, and then get my reward, all right, from the Lord, man. Esteeming the reproach of Yahweh Shai Mashiach greater riches than the treasures of Egypt. All right. For he had respect unto the recompense of the reward. So we got to have respect to that reward, man. Okay. You know? So the hell that we catching, is way more valuable because of the refinement that we're going through to be accepted by Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai than anything this world has to offer. Because what the Lord is going to grant those that believe and trust in him and hold on, bro. Come on now. Eyes have not seen, ear hath not heard what the Lord has prepared for those that wait for him. We have to believe that. That is very key to believe that, man. Not only escaping the wrath to come, but the reward that's going to be given as well, man. All right. We have to believe that, man. Okay. So it says, back in the commentary, they might have had opportunity to have returned. The journey was not so long or perilous that they could not have retraced their steps. It would have been no more difficult or dangerous for them to do that than it was to make the journey at first. This shows that they're remaining this shows that their remaining as strangers and sojourners in the land of Canaan was voluntary. Okay. They preferred it with all its inconveniences and hardships, right? So that's this walk of faith. I prefer to catch the hell and go through the sufferings, right? Because of knowing the reward that is going to come with. It says, no chastening of this present time seemeth to be joyous, but it is grievous. Nevertheless, it yielded the peaceable fruit of righteousness. I was having a conversation, and I was like, man, like, not even just the reward or just the growth, just the growth that, we've had in our walk from when we woke up to now has been worth it, you know, without even getting, to the kingdom yet, man. All right. Look at who you were in the world. All right. To what you've grown into now. The temperance. All right. The endurance, the fortitude, the justice, the decision making, the wisdom that you're walking in now, even that of what you've become has been worth it. Okay. Already thus far. The suffering has been worth it because of who you are now, how you reason now. Okay. How you operate now has been way better than how you were in the world, man. Okay. You know, I'd rather be who I am now than what I was, in the world, man. Okay? So the sufferings has already been worth it from that aspect, not even, you know, not even receiving what's to come yet. Cuz there's still more to come. There's still a great reward, and that's what we're ultimately, reaching the salvation and so on and so forth. But just even look at it in that aspect, man. You know, it's like, man, I'll do it. I'll do it if it do it all again. All right. Rather than to be that nigga in the world, I'll just quote a precept that King David said, man. He said, one day in the house of the Lord. How did King David say it, man? Let me just type it in, just to tie in the point, because I'm not really doing this justice how it's in my mind. One day in the house of the Lord is better than 1,000. I might be mixing two. Damn, I didn't mean to put two O's. All right, this is let's see if this is it. Psalms 84 and 10. In the KJV, for a day in the courts is better than 1,000. I'd rather be a doorkeeper in the house of my power than to dwell in the tents of wickedness, right? That's it, man. So one day, man, you know, man, bro, just being in this knowledge, bro, it's better than 1,000 days in wickedness, man. All right, all that time you was in wickedness in the world or whatever the case may be, man. All right, this is way better. Being in this house, all right, learning, having this wisdom, this glorious wisdom, all right, becoming who you are, being more molded to the image of Yahweh Shai, bro. Like, bro, it's been worth it. That hell that you caught, that's made you better. That's why it says in the book of Psalms, man. It is good that I've been afflicted, man. All right. Let me grab that, man. You know, this affliction that this hell that we've been catching has been good. Okay. You know, getting your ass kicked was good. All right. You know what I'm saying? All right. Psalms 119 and 71. It says, I'm going to start at verse 67. Before I was afflicted, I went astray, but now have I kept thy word. Verse 71. It is good for me that I've been afflicted, that I might learn thy statutes. So this has been very good for us, man. All right. We've been perfected, going through perfection through our sufferings, man. In the NLT, verse 71, my suffering was good for me, for it taught me to pay attention to your decrees. So this has been very good for us, man. All right. And we have to, understand that, man. So yeah, we catch our hell, but we better off than these people in this world that's doing all manners of wickedness, man, and gonna get destroyed. All right. In verse 65 in the NLT, you have done many good things for me, Lord, just as you promised. All right. The Lord has done great things for us through taking us through the trials and tribulations and refining us, man. All right. So we have to keep these things in mind. So going back to the commentary, it says, let me see. All right, it says this shows that their remaining as strangers and sojourners in the land of Canaan was voluntary. They preferred it with all its inconveniences and hardships to a return. It says to a return to their native land. So we prefer to go through this path, the straight gate, the path of difficulty, rather than to go to the broad way. All right, that leads to destruction, man. All right. You got Jakes, man. They, go through the discipline and everything like that. Then it's like, man, I want to go back to the broad way. All right. Even it's like, bro, it leads to destruction. But yeah, man, it's easier. Niggas got that mentality, man, and they show it in their actions when they go back to the world. And ultimately, it's because, they weren't, really given that gift of faith. And Lord's will, we have that gift of faith to hold it fast through the end. It's all according to calling an election, right? But shoot, hey, within the story, man, they went back. All right. They went back to the broad. All right. Because they saw something better. It was, they didn't believe in the reward. They didn't believe that this path was going to really lead to all these different things that we talk about. They don't believe in the kingdom of heaven to come. They don't believe in all these different things, man. All right. It says the same thing is true of all the people of the Most High now. If they choose to return to the world and to engage again in all its vain pursuits, there is nothing to hinder them. Right. So, yeah, you could go back to the world. What's hindering you? You could. But why? For what? Okay. What are you going to do? All right. What is there to do? There are opportunities. They got it in quotes. Yeah. Okay. There's opportunity. All right. You get it. Get that job you wanted. All right. That whatever career you thought, like all this is finna end anyways, man. The careers, that government job, niggas ain't getting paid that's working government jobs. Like anything that you thought that you could have done or whatever, it's through. There are opportunities enough. There are abundant inducements held out. There are numerous frivolous and worldly friends who would regard it as a matter of joy and triumph to have them return to vanity and folly again. Yeah, you got people like, they'll love for you to go back to who you were, the old you, right? They would welcome them to their society, rejoice to have them participate in their pleasures, and be willing that they should share in the honors and the wealth of the world. And they might do it. There are multitudes of Christians, so to speak, they talking about these Jesus freaks, all right, but we're applying it into the real believers in Yahweh Shai Mashiach, who could grace, as they once did, the ballroom, who could charm the social party by song and wit. Right, when you was in the world, it was like, man, you was cool, man, this and that and the third. Then you got to being around them Hebrew Israelites, and now you just this and that and the third, and you not fun no more. And you know, you know, that's how people act, man. Man, I miss the old you, man. All right, who could rise to the highest post of office, right? You could get this, go back in the world and get that job and be that guy or whatever, right? Or compete successfully with others in the race for their acquisition of fame. They have seen and tasted enough of the vain pursuits. Like it says, man, what pleasure have you in those things in which you're now ashamed of, man? Those things end in death, like it talks about in the book of Romans, man. You know, they have seen and tasted enough. It says, let this suffice in the book of Peter, you know. It said, let that time that we wrought the will of the Gentiles, man, let that be enough. We was in the world, man. We was all in the world, man. Let that be enough. First Peter 4 and I'll start at 1. For as much then as Yahushua Mashiach hath suffered for us in the flesh, arm yourselves likewise with the same mind. For he that hath suffered in the flesh hath ceased from sin, that he no longer should live the rest of his time in the flesh for the lust of men, but to the will of the Most High. Right? It says, so we got to arm ourselves with the mind of Yahushua, man. He suffered in the flesh. All right. He caught hell. But look what it led to, man. His obedience, his suffering led to him at the name of Yahweh Shai, every knee is going to bow, every tongue is going to confess glory and honor. All right. You know, it says, verse 3, for the time past of our life may suffice us to have wrought the will of the Gentiles when we walked in lasciviousness, lust, excess of wine, revelings, banquetings, and abominable idolatries. So, right, let that be enough. Wherein they think it strange that ye run not with them to the same excess of riot, speaking evil of you, right? So they're like, man, you don't want to party with us no more. You don't want to hang no more, man. You don't come to the cookout no more, man. You know, you don't do this no more, man. You don't want to hang around with your cousin, man. You don't even deal, man. We grew up together, man. You know, we was rolling together. What happened, man? I thought we was riding and dying. It's like, bro, them niggas, bro, we're not that same person no more, man. Leave that nigga in the grave behind, and don't let these niggas that's dead pull you back to death. All right. These people in the zombie, he ain't trying to entice you. Here it is, you walking around with life, and you got a zombie. This nigga got all types of, you know, this nigga clothes ripped. He's drooling and slobbing, and he pulling at you, man. Come on back to the zombie life, man. It's all cool over here, man. What happened, man? It's like, what? And you gonna go back like, man, like nigga, you wasn't doing nothing. It's like we were dead. All right. But we've been quickened. We've been made alive through Yahweh Shai Mashiach. Why go back to the dead, to the congregation of the dead with the zombies, man? These niggas finna die horribly. All right. And they trying to convince you that being a zombie was where it was at. Just walking around drooling and, you know, you all messed up, sores everywhere. You all diseased, walking all slow, just bugged out. And they trying to entice you, all right, or convince you that that's where it was at. Like, hell nah, man. All right. It says, wherein they think it strange that ye run not with them to the same excess of riot. All right. In the NLT, that verse 3, it says, you have had enough in the past of the evil things that godless people enjoy. All right, let that be enough, man. Okay? Their immorality and lust, their feastings and drunkenness and wild parties and their terrible worships of idols. All right. Of course, your former friends are surprised when you no longer plunge into the flood of wild and destructive things they do. So they slaughter you. All right. But remember that they will have to face the Most High, who will judge everyone, both the living and the dead. Right, man? So the Lord is coming to judge them, man. So let all that stuff suffice, man. I have no interest in this place in this world. All right. So going back to the commentary, it says, they have seen and tasted enough of the vain pursuits of the world to satisfy them with their vanity. They are convinced of the sinfulness of making these things the great objects of living. Their affections are now fixed on higher and nobler, all right, objects. That just sounds weird, nobler, all right, objects. And they choose not to return to those pursuits again, but to live as strangers and sojourners on the earth. For there is nothing more voluntary than religion or worship, man. You know? So I really wanted to, just kind of read through that, man. It stood out to me, man, but yeah. All right, let that be enough. Just going back to that main precept, I ended off on this in Galatians 6 and 14 again in the NLT. As for me, may I never boast about anything except the cross of our Lord Yahushua Mashiach. Because of that cross, my interest in this world has been crucified. And the world's interest in me has also died, man. So let that shit be in the grave, you know? And all once again, this place is over with anyways, man. So having that being said, Lord's what I was edifying. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Rakakwadash, double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who rule well. Peace and salutations to the hopeful elect, pushing out this word in all sincerity and in truth. With that, I'm going to say shalom.